Hello, everyone. Welcome back to today's Food for Thought. For those who are just seeing SFC for the first time, we are an advocacy group by students and young professionals for students and young professionals. My name is Hannah, and joining me today is Lily and Ryan. We believe that Canada can have a strong future in resources, the economy, and the environment. Please feel free to connect with us on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. All of them are at Students for Canada if you want to learn more about what we do. Today, we are hosting Pauline Greenidge. Pauline is an HR professional with Upward HR, and she helps to tailor leadership strategies for teams in the workplace. Over the years, Pauline noticed a trend in professional environments. While the rise of globalization, technology, and remote work opportunities certainly had some positive aspects, they also contributed to higher rates of disengagement, poor morale, and things like burnout. So instead of simply observing these phenomenons, Pauline now advises executives and leaders in both individual and team environments. Pauline brings a really unique perspective in that she can provide clarity on strengths and build confidence, and this helps to create resilience within teams. She's also a published author, so please check out her book, which is called A Grand Dinner Party, Setting the Table for Employee Engagement Through Mergers and Acquisitions, and you can find this on Amazon. Today, Pauline is going to help us power our careers with LinkedIn. She provides this unique perspective, which can help young people navigate new careers and job opportunities. Just before I hand over the floor to Pauline, please know that attendees are encouraged to ask questions throughout the presentation using the Q&A box below, and we will address these at the end of the session. For all of those who are watching live or watching the recording, our word of the day is networking. Please feel free to send this to our Instagram team for a chance to win a prize. And otherwise, I'm going to share the spotlight with you now, Pauline. Thank you so much for joining us today. Feel free to share your screen and we can get going.
Well, thanks so much, Hannah, and welcome everyone. Today, I want to share with you some tips for networking and for really powering your career through LinkedIn. So I'm going to share my screen and you can let me know if you can see this. Hopefully you'll see the right view and we'll go from there. Okay, so I'm not sure what you're seeing. Can you see my, oh, that's probably not the view you want. Hang on. Let's just switch our display there. Now, can everyone see the slide, the powering your career with LinkedIn?
We sure can.
Okay, and that's all you should be seeing. So I don't want you to see my view. So welcome everyone. This is so much fun for me, and I really want to make sure that I leave you with some nuggets for you as you continue to advance in your career. And thank you for that awesome introduction, Hannah. I really appreciate that. You know, as she mentioned, I really like to help people create connection and a sense of belonging based on who they are, but also the best that they can bring to the work that they're doing with teams and in the workplace. And so it was a great little introduction. And so what I want to do now is dive into what is it we're actually going to talk about in our time together. So when we talk about powering your career with LinkedIn, there's two key areas that I want to share with you and focus on today, and that is getting your profile noticed. I'm hoping that most of you, if not all of you, have a presence on LinkedIn. And if you do, we'll talk about getting your profile noticed. But if not, now's a great time to consider that for your LinkedIn presence and being there. The second piece is using LinkedIn for networking. So we'll talk a little bit about why that's important, and then a couple of things around etiquette that you can consider for yourself, whether you're looking for the next opportunity and not working, or you're actually working right now and wanting to move into something different. And then we'll have time for questions at the end, which is the best part. So just as a refresher, why is LinkedIn important? You know, LinkedIn, for all of us, it doesn't matter whether you're starting out in your career or if you're someone that's mid-career or even at the end. LinkedIn is a critical job search and career planning tool for anyone. And just some interesting facts of note, there are over 19 million LinkedIn users here in Canada, 19.8 to be exact, which is quite a high number for our population. So people have recognized that LinkedIn is the place for professional connection. 72% of recruiters use LinkedIn to recruit talent. I know I don't do as much recruiting as I used to, but in the last year or so, I've actually used LinkedIn as and its recruiting functions really to find top caliber candidates, but also to be able to hone in on the marketplace for the skill sets that I need, in addition to other tools. So this is a great place to be if you want to be visible to recruiters. And the third piece here is over 75% of people who recently changed jobs used LinkedIn to inform that career decision, either to make that move based on an outreach from a recruiter, applying to a posting, or just letting their network know, hey, I'm moving into this next new role. So LinkedIn is a really important place and a hub for you as you start to expand in your career and grow. So let's talk about getting your profile noticed. One thing that I will say to you about LinkedIn, when we look at your presence on LinkedIn, this is a place where you can build trust. Certainly, a resume is part of that as well, and you're applying to something, but this is actually where you're going to be visible to the market. And so you want to make sure that your profile really talks about the things that you want people to know about you as a professional. And so a good profile or a career summary is about 40 words at a minimum or more, depending on how much you want to say. And it's similar to the career summary or profile that's on your resume, but it can be personalized in this case with pronouns. So you can say I in your profile on LinkedIn, but you want to leave that off on your resume when you're sending it out or applying to ads. And this place, particularly your profile, because this is what a recruiter will see, that your picture and your tagline and probably a few sentences in your profile, this is where you can show your value to a potential employer, to a client, or even just in your profession and your professional development. So
sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Would you just mind turning your presentation to full screen?
Oh, sure. Is it not showing full screen?
We can just still see like the slides on the side. I'm not sure.
Okay, that's what I wondered if you had. There we go.
Oh, perfect.
That's super about that.
No, sorry, I should have told you sooner.
Yeah, so sorry about that. So when we talked about your LinkedIn profile, this really answers the question, tell me about yourself. So this is a common interview question, but your online presence really with your profile, this is where you want to be able to answer that question. And so there's kind of three parts to that. So who are you, right? So who are you professionally? And by the way, when someone asks you that in an interview, tell me about yourself, they're really wanting to know who you are professionally. It might be interesting to know that you like hiking or you like walking your dog or other things, but in a professional context, they're really wanting to understand who are you in terms of your career aspiration or the work that you've been doing or the work that you're aspiring to do if you're just graduating. So the first question, who are you? What's that job title or area of expertise that you can put on the top of your tagline under your picture that's searchable by the LinkedIn algorithm? So let's say you are in human resources, you're learning that area, and you may not have a lot of expertise, but you can say human resources, you could say recruiting and benefits and something else, or you can give yourself a title, recruiter. It's up to you. Especially if you're thinking about and not sure where exactly you want to land yet, but you want to give the algorithm, but also the people viewing you a sense of who are you? The second piece is what is it that you do well? And I know this isn't always the easiest question for us to answer about ourselves, but what we're really looking for is what are some of the things that you're proud of that you've done so far? Accomplishments, skills or attributes, or things that describe you and your work. And we'll take a look at a sample in a moment. But what are things that you do well? Maybe it's a project that you did in school. Maybe it's something you've collaborated on in a volunteer sense, or it might be something you got a chance to work on in your recent work. So what are the accomplishments, the skills, or some attributes, which are kind of those strengths that you want to highlight that are unique to you? So things like I'm a great collaborator, I'm super organized, I'm energetic, whatever words you or others have used in the workplace to describe who you are at work. And then the last piece is, what are you looking for? So here it might be, if you are actively seeking and not employed, you could put here actively seeking full-time. You could actually be that specific. But more importantly and more searchable would be the areas of interest that you have. So I'm an aspiring geologist looking for the next role. I'd like to expand my accounting professional experience, or I would like to engage in a large startup and help staff and recruit positions. You can be as specific or general as you want, but help the reader understand what are your professional areas either of interest, or summarize what you have to offer. And it could just be, I'm aspiring to step into my next great role, and these are the key areas that I have skills or interest in. You can be that plain. So you have some freedom to write that the way that you want. So who are you? What do you do well? And what are you looking for? So in terms of tips for your profile, and I'll share some of these that I shared with you last year for those of you that might be tuning in again. But these are some basic profile tips to get noticed. Before you start, make sure you go into your privacy and settings and turn the on off broadcast button so that you're not broadcasting every change that you make. So you can go in there. It may take you time to update your profile or to add education or a new role. There may be times when you want to let your network know that you've got a new role, or that you've taken a great course, or that there's some other big event in your career. But mostly if you're tweaking or writing something like your profile, you want to have that notification turned off until you're ready to have it open to everyone to look at. As I mentioned earlier, your headline is important. So start with a headline that's relevant to your industry, but that's searchable. That could be the title of your current job if you're working. If you're seeking, it could be the title of a role that you're seeking. Or if you're wanting to expand, or you're not exactly sure, it's a range of roles. You could put accounting professional, accounts payable, accounts receivable, and analytics or analyst. And the algorithm is going to pick up any of those words. So you may get some roles that are relevant to you and you may not, but you want to have the opportunity for the algorithm to recognize some of those keywords in your headline. Now, your profile picture, if you don't have one, this is the place to put a profile picture, not on your resume. In Canada, we typically do not put a profile picture on our resume, but if you're working overseas, it's the exact opposite. You might choose to put it on because that's in that jurisdiction, it makes sense. But where you could add a professional picture would be here on LinkedIn. And it doesn't need to be fancy. It just needs to be a clean background. It could be a wall in your home or some other space that's creative if you feel up to that. And use your phone. Your phone has a probably high enough quality, and you should be dressed probably something like business casual in that picture. We don't want to see a picture of you on a boat with sunglasses, or in a wedding gown or a tuxedo, or with other family in the picture. This is really just a clean headshot, shoulders and up, that you can probably do against any wall or area in your home. And by the way, members with photos receive 21 times more public views. When I last looked at this stat, it was probably 7 or 8 times. It's actually 21 times more. So people are really paying attention to not just your picture, but just that it's professional and that they can distinguish who it is. Now, if you're on LinkedIn already, you can customize your URL, which is basically your LinkedIn. It's a link that says linkedin.com and then your name. And typically after that, there's a bunch of what I call gobbledygook letters and numbers. You can actually go in and just edit that and just delete all the numbers and letters and leave linkedin.com/your name. You want to be able to copy and paste that into your resume or an email if you're sending it out to a prospective employer or contact. And your contact info is the email address that's going to be seen. So if you choose to fill in that field, you want to use a professional and straightforward email. So sitting on the dock at the lake com, probably not the best email address. So most people use Gmail. It can be your name or a combination of your name and numbers. And Gmail or Outlook or something like that is fine, as long as it's easy to use and to access. And I would also recommend that if you're going to link your LinkedIn to that profile or to that email, that you use something like Gmail. If you tie it to your employer email, you'll have to keep changing it. So remember, this is sort of your ongoing contacts, right? This contact travels with you wherever you go. So you may want to choose to use something like a Gmail or something that's personalized to you, but also professional. And then finally, the summary that we talked about, just personalize that as much as you can. Show the value that you can bring. And really, it's to make sure that you're sharing, what you want people to know about you. So let's take a look. So our sample LinkedIn profile here, this is Daniel, and he's a software engineer in test at Google. And so he's got his location there, which, by the way, you want to include a location. It can be Calgary and greater area, or wherever you are, you can put that location there. He's also got his contact info filled in here, and then he's got 70 connections. And below, he starts this more of a biographical kind of profile, which you can, if you're comfortable with, to talk about why he's interested in software and how he found his passion. Then he talks about his journey through middle school, all the way into carrying through to his education. You can also mention your recent education if it's recent here, and how that allowed you to learn more about what you're interested in, and now you're ready to pursue that passion or pursue that career path. And then finally, if you notice at the bottom, he's using keywords for the LinkedIn algorithm. So he says, so now in industry, this passion remains with me, and so on. And then he lists some specialties that he has or has experience with, and also some academic training that he has. So systems programming, algorithms, and distributed systems. So the algorithm in LinkedIn will pick up on some of those keywords, because a recruiter will type in, I'm looking for C++ programmer. So you want to make sure that the words you're using to describe yourself actually line up to how it's described in industry. So I hope that makes sense. But that's something, and this is only one way that you can, of many ways that you can write your own profile. So you can Google many different styles, but one thing, if you're starting out, is you may want to give a little bit more background about your area of interest, your education, and what you're looking for. So that's a brief overview of profiles and how to get noticed, particularly when you're starting out. A good profile for someone who has sort of small amount or a limited amount of work experience will make a lot of difference versus someone who just says, I'm looking for this type of role, and then lists a bunch of positions or experiences without that context. So let's talk about part 2, which is using LinkedIn for networking. So I can't stress enough how important LinkedIn is as a networking tool, whether you're actually in career transition or you're working and you're wanting to start looking for the next great opportunity. It's a really powerful tool for managing your career in 4 kind of specific ways. So the first way is visibility. LinkedIn creates a kind of visibility that you may not get everywhere else, because it's focused on your professional pursuits, but it allows you to be seen professionally. It's also a great tool for research, researching companies, researching who you might want to reach out to and connect with, and also a place where you can be visible in terms of receiving or giving referrals to people for work, or endorsements for work that you've done, or someone else that you've worked with, you giving an endorsement or a referral. So it creates visibility. This is the place to be. Sometimes when we think about networking, we think about going into a big room and talking to a bunch of strangers and well, what do I say? And tell me about yourself. And you're like, well, I live in Calgary right. And it can feel a little bit daunting and intimidating. And so this really provides you, particularly through the last couple of years when we didn't have all the opportunities to be face to face, a chance for you to be seen professionally and on a regular basis. So visibility is the first piece. The second piece is about connection and creating connection for you, whether it's with potential employers or experts in your field of study or interest, and also professional groups and associations where you can get connected to other people who may be looking for volunteers, maybe looking for actual people to join their team, or for you to just stay fresh and current on industry trends that are impacting your area that you're interested in. So creating connection is important, and LinkedIn is a great way to do that for employers to reach out to you, but for you to also reach out to employers. The third piece is really for the opportunity for you to share. And this is where, if you feel comfortable sharing relevant content around your professional accomplishments or any area of expertise that you're starting to develop or that you already have. So if you're comfortable, even writing a paragraph or a couple of sentences about a key area that's impacting your industry, you're working in energy, let's say, and you say, you know what, here's an interesting article that I read on hydrogen, or here's some news about clear hydrogen, and I found it insightful because of 1, 2, 3 things. And then you can share that post. It really just shows that you're taking interest not only in your own career, but also in things that are relevant to you, and that you can push those out from LinkedIn. And so it just kind of adds more credibility to you as a potential employee, but also as a job seeker if you're actively in search. And then lastly, but not lastly, is the community that you can create through LinkedIn. And this is where you are going to, and I suggest to you that you're going to continue to do this over a number of years. LinkedIn may change how they do things, but this is your place to plug in for your career stuff. You might use other avenues of social media, but this is the place for you if you're looking at professional connection. And this is where you can create your community. Who are your colleagues? It could even be your family and friends. I'm connected to my cousin in the UK and my brother here, and we share sometimes professional contacts, believe it or not. And so you can create an update of your business community here, and also update your network on where you're at in your career, particularly if you're in transition, but also if you're at an organization and you're saying, hey, come join us. And you can use it that way. So this is a place for you to create that visibility, connection, for you to share, but also to keep your community updated. Now, let's say you're working and you're on LinkedIn, a couple times a week or however frequently, and you're finding that you're getting outreach from recruiters. There's a lot of activity right now in terms of search and opportunities, at least here in this particular jurisdiction. So if you're receiving outreach from recruiters, there's sort of the 3 Ps of handling them, whether you're working or not, but particularly if you're working. I call them the 3 Ps: be polite, be professional, and be prompt. Sometimes what happens is, and I've worked with many people who've been in career transition, who are working, have a great job, recruiters are sending stuff to them and they're going, you know what, I'm not interested. So they ignore them or they don't respond. And then a month later, they lose their job in their organization. And they're like, you know what, I didn't really, or I kind of started a conversation with this recruiter and then I just got busy at work. So you want to make sure that at a minimum, if you can, be polite and respond. Often recruiters will hop in and send you a message, and it might be, are you interested? Or there's another button that says, sorry, I'm not interested. Thank you very much. Take the time to respond, especially if they make it easy using those buttons. If you do connect with the recruiter and say, yes, I'd be interested, you want to be professional always. And I know you will be, each and every one of you, but make sure that you're being professional and saying, thank you so much for the outreach. This is the kind of opportunities I'm looking for, or this isn't exactly a match with the direction or what I'm looking for in my career, but let's stay connected. And you can add them to that network, right? Let's stay connected. Or if there are other opportunities in the next number of weeks or months, I'd be interested in being in touch with you, or taking a meeting offline, virtually or in person, to connect if that's something of interest. And the third piece is being prompt. You may see messages in your messenger piece here, and you may ignore them or not respond. You want to just even do a quick response. Thank you so much for your inquiry. I'd like to learn more, or thank you, but no thanks. So be polite, be professional, and be prompt, because you never know when that recruiter will be someone that you need to connect with down the road, or it might be a good connection point for you or someone else that you know in your network. Now, you may say, okay, I'm at my current role and it's good, but I think I'm ready to move on. And I want to use LinkedIn. How do I use LinkedIn to let people know, but I don't want the whole world to know? And there's a couple options here. So if you're searching while you're working, and there's a lot of debate, by the way, about using the open to work functionality here. You can use it. If you are not working, it's a personal choice. I don't really, as a person who has recruited positions, I don't look at that as anything as other than positive. The person's being open that they're looking for work, right? So, but some people you'll go on Google and they'll say, don't use that. It's not great. You have to make that decision for yourself. Personally, I don't think it's a bad thing. But if you're working and you're wanting really only for recruiters to be able to find you, there's a drop down that you can use and change in your profile that'll allow you to select either the top option, which goes out to all LinkedIn users. That includes recruiters and potential people that might even be at your company, or to recruiters only. So if a recruiter is using LinkedIn Recruiter in the background, they'll be able to see that you're open to work, but no one else will be able to. And that might be some functionality that you may want to leverage if you're thinking about making a jump from one particular role to the next, opening up the channel. LinkedIn is a great place to be visible, in addition to going on to other sites, job posting sites, or even employer sites where they have positions, or a recruiter itself, a physical recruiting firm. So that's a little bit of some points around etiquette. If you're working, you want to be visible, or a recruiter reaches out to you and you might be working, or it's not maybe even necessarily a fit. How do you respond to each of those scenarios? So some key tips, things for you to consider to get noticed. And I kept these in here because I think they're still relevant. Whether you're starting out in your career, or even if you're farther along in your career. In terms of your connections, in addition to having a great profile, you want to have 50 plus connections. So, and people who've worked for longer, we try and get them up to 500 connections, because you're going to become more visible and the algorithm can find you. But if you're just starting out, don't forget family and friends if it's relevant and professional, colleagues. Maybe it's a professor, maybe it's colleagues from a project at school, doesn't matter. You want to kind of start to build your network. Then you also, if you feel comfortable and it works for you, use the open to work functionality, and you can turn this on for recruiters to find you only, or turn it on for everyone to know. If that's a choice that you can make for yourself. Then it makes sense, if you're comfortable, to share articles, comment on other articles, share a comment on a relevant post for something you're interested in, because it's an indirect way to become visible and to start networking. Hey, I saw that post, very interesting, and always remember to use the person, so that you can recognize who you're commenting on, or commenting on the post, and that will tag them. And then you can start a conversation, even if it's just about that post. That happens to me all the time. But it also will allow you to make a new connection if there's someone that you feel might be a good connection for you. And then your experience in the body of your LinkedIn profile. You don't need to make it your online resume exactly, but you do want to list all relevant work, whether it's part-time, maybe it's unpaid or internship work, some things that are useful for you, that show off either your actual technical knowledge and ability, or just some of those great personal key human skills, what we used to call soft skills, your great collaboration, your great organization skills, or other things that you've been known to bring to the table. And then finally, it really is about sharing a bit more on your, showing off. It's really just showing off. So add examples of your work. You know, I have a friend who teaches at SAIT and in a project management course. And one of the things that they had to do is come up with a project that was a fundraising project. Some of those students were on LinkedIn and posted, hey, we were able to raise this much. Here's the thing that we did, and had pictures and maybe even a bit of a descriptor. And I thought it was really interesting because I go, what a great way to kick off some of your professional endeavors by showing something that you're proud of that required a lot of work, a lot of collaboration or cooperation with others, and that had a great result. But if you're a writer, or if you have some video of you doing something that makes sense for you to post, feel free to mix it up. Remember, this is the professional work platform, so it all should link together with what you want the audience to know about you, but it's also a great place to show off as well. So as I close off here, we've talked about the importance of having a profile and getting noticed, making sure that you are using taglines and using at least 40 words or more to describe yourself. Have fun with it. Talk about who you are, what you're good at, and what you're seeking or what you're willing to offer in terms of your career. We also talked about the importance of networking, creating visibility for connection, for sharing, and creating community. And we also talked about the 3 Ps of addressing recruiters who may be reaching out to you through LinkedIn: being polite, professional, and prompt. So any of these I hope these are useful for you, but if you're wanting more tips or screenshots on how do I do this or how do I change that on my profile, linkedin.com/help actually has quite a bit in their site that will show you how to close out an account, to change it, merge accounts, all kinds of things. Some of what I've talked about today, almost all of it will be on LinkedIn Help. And you can also Google it as well. So I hope this was a quick and helpful set of nuggets for you as you consider what's next for you in your career. And I'd love to, if it's okay, Hannah, to open it up to questions.